Phasmophobia decided to drop their major update version 0.10.0.0, which of course is finally bringing Point Hope. Now this is a map we've all been waiting for in Phasmophobia for a very long time, and of course I put on the thumbnail so that way you know there is no console news. Now they are supposed to do some sort of presser next week and talk about console, and I don't know. I think at this point it's 50-50 that we're either going to get a release date or they're just going to cancel it. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but we're going to talk about everything that's coming in this major update. But before we do that, welcome back, Deadates and Ghost Beaters. And if you're new to the channel, I am Old Head Gaming. If you want to stay up to date on all the latest horror game news, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Now we're going to hop over and check out the Eventide patch notes. Let's go. With the little subtitle, "Are you brave enough to become the new lighthouse keeper?" Welcome back. We've got an update for you. Due to the size of this update, we have given it the version number, version 0.10. Now, it won't hit number 1 until they actually go fully live. Even though the roadmap originally planned different content for this version number, the following updates planned in the roadmap will instead have increased version numbers, but the content and order remains the same. We start with Point Hope. Point Hope was recently refurbished by a young family seeking something unique to call home. You'll be welcome to the modern extension. Complete the hallway, closets, downstairs bathroom. Before entering the lighthouse main living room, decorated with nautical knickknacks, you'll be faced by a spiral staircase, round rooms, and of course, a first for ghost hunters. The new location features 10 floors, 12 rooms, and unique layout which will change players in a new way. You'll have different techniques for some of those pesky ghost abilities while playing on lower evidence game modes, unlocked at level 15. Progression. Several progressions and equipment items have been adjusted based on the community feedback. Player leveling and reward. The required XP to level from 1 to 100 has been reduced by 10%, making it faster to level. You can now level up to 9,999 for each prestige. Required experience to level up between 99 and 9,900 will crit every level. Study Meadows Restricted is now categorized as a medium location. Increased rewards for correctly identifying the ghost in medium and large locations. Medium went from 125 to 150, and large went 150 to 200. The Tier 1's light range has been increased. That's good. Tier 3 scanning effect can now be paused by interacting with it while it's rotating. EMF. Tier 1's needle will no longer flicker near or past 5 value during events and haunts to stop confusion with evidence. Tier 3's EMF reading now plays unique sound. Firelight. Increase the visible light intensity and range for both Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tier 1 duration increased from 3 to 5 minutes. Tier 2 duration increased from 5 to 10 minutes. Firelights and igniters will now extinguish accurately in heavy rain. For example, they will no longer be extinguished under house porches or inside small tents. Headgear. Customizable key binding has been added to the controls page for turning on and off headgear. I actually like that. Turning headgear 1 on and off will now play different sounds to help you know which state the equipment is in. While within the range of a ghost event or haunting ghosts, Tier 3 will now have visual interference. All tiers will now play a new sound. Parabolic microphone. Tier 1's red light will now flicker when sound is detected. Tier 3 can now receive sounds 1 floor above and below the player using it, with a new eye to show which floor the sound is coming from. Okay, that's kind of like the EMF reader in Ghostbusters. You can see if it's pointing up or it's pointing down or it's pointing flat. I like that. You now have to hold the parabolic microphone to turn them on or off. Thermometer. Holding down the use button while holding a thermometer on Tier 2 or Tier 3 now continuously uses the update instead of having to restart after each reading. Thank God. That was one of the most annoying things with higher level thermometers. You would have to keep clicking it. It was just so annoying. Tier 1 now has randomization to make it consistent with other tiers. Tier 3 has been reduced from 3 seconds to 2.5. Tier 3 randomization has been reduced to make it more accurate. Tripods and video cameras. Ghost will now throw video cameras more consistently. Tripod 1 knockdown chance increased from 20% all the way up to 30%, and Tripod 2 chance increased from 10% to 20%. So a 10% boost on Tier 1 and 2 tripods. Sanity medication. Tier 1 restoration time has decreased from 30 seconds to 20. Tier 2 restoration time has decreased from 20 seconds to 10. Tier 3 will now instantly refill your spirit endurance in addition to keeping it for a full 10 seconds. Sound sensors. Mute buttons have been added to each sound sensor truck UI. Spirit box. Small environmental lights such as lamps may now also be turned off to receive a response. You now must hold the spirit box to use it with text-based voice recognition. And UV lights. Tier 1 and 2 have been swapped for better progression during levels. All right, optimization. We have drastically improved the performance of several areas of the game, which will result in fewer stutters, higher FPS, and quick loading times, especially on low-end machines. The number of fixes and optimizations would be too many to list, but the following have received the biggest adjustment: photo and video camera, shadows, weather and sky effects, UI, physics, audio, reflections, textures, and shades are now streamed to the GPU to significantly reduce VRAM and RAM usage, and Tentor cloth system have been completely overhauled to increase performance. Training. Lower the temperature of training to make the freezing temperature section much faster to progress. Reduce the amount of equipment to 1 each room. You now have to get EMF to 5 to get past an EMF room. Props will now get more frequently thrown in the EMF room. Replace the glow stick with the UV torch as per tier changes above, and the ghost orb section. Players will now need to move more accurately with video camera to avoid accidentally completing an objective without seeing a ghost orb. New ID card badges can be unlocked. Lighthouse Keeper. Correctly identify the ghost on Point Hope 50 times with reward multiplier above 0x. Apocalypse Bronze. Correctly identify the ghosts that take ghost photo, completely objectives in Sunny Meadows, and difficult multiplier of 6 or higher. Apocalypse Silver. Correctly identify the ghosts, take a photo, complete all the objectives on Sunny Meadows with difficulty map of 10 or higher. And Gold. Correctly identify the ghost, take a ghost photo, complete all objectives on Sunny Meadows with a difficult multiplier of 15. Note, if you have already completed any of the Apocalypse Challenge, you will need to complete a single game of any kind to receive your new ID cards. Players now carry Igniter in addition to 3 items. Are you kidding me? That's awesome. I've always hated having to grab 2 things to do one thing, like a lighter and a candle, a lighter and sage. Like, it was always annoying. Now we can just carry lighters. Igniter now have their own slot in the VR belt. When placing a tier 1 igniter in the slot, you won't be able to remove it again until all matches have been drawn. Okay, perfect. Unlocking a new reward that is not tied to leveling up will now show on a pop-up in the mission summary screen. Ghost writing books now can play sounds when closed. Added Kate and Catherine to possible ghost first names, and ghosts now can leave single fingerprints on small lamps, TV remotes in all locations. We have some changes as well. First, to equipment. You can no longer swap inventory slots while taking a photo. Remove flashlights from hide and seek streams as they were disabled from the settings. Deja Vu now weekly has UV T1 instead of T2 to keep it as a flashlight. Glow in the Dark weekly now is T2 instead of T1 to keep it as a glow stick. Asking the Ouija board bone location questions will now drain 20% sanity, down from 50%, due to the bone reward not being included in the reward multiplier. And lighting a summoning circle candle will now instantly end the setup phase. All right, that's fine. Ghost. Non-ghost writing ghosts can now close the book after throwing it. Ghosts can no longer interact with already knocked down paintings. Shades can no longer blow out fire sources or write in the ghost book if there are any of the players in the room to keep the strength consistent. And improve the ghost's ability to interact with closed doors. Improve Banshee's AI targeting when they stalk a player. I wish to see a ghost will now limit your vision after the ghost event instead of before to allow you to see the ghost, and increase the sanity drain on one of the ghost events to match other events. All right. Environment. Paranormal Paparazzi and Hide and Seek Hide weekly challenges now placed in Point Hope. Drastically improved sunrise visuals. Turning several light switches on in a room, but not all, will drain sanity at a reduced rate instead of the full sanity drain speed. Props that move the hit with another prop will no longer play an additional impact sound. Adjust all weather's distinct fog for the better blending with the horizon. Remove Point Hope teasers from all maps and lobbies. Optimizes assets across all maps. Low resolution for light cookies, but increase resolution for sky and light shadows. Move the green bowl in Edge living room to where the lamp and new fingerprints. Oh, okay, because of the new fingerprints. I was like, what are we moving a bowl for? Okay, that makes sense, because now they can put on the bowls and TV remotes. Tanglewood utility room can now close correctly by ghosts. Medium tent windows now have correct collision on both sides. Audio effects to help identify sounds are above below. The sounds are the one floor based boosted and muffled. Sounds the one floor below will be muffled and quiet. Sounds that are 2 floors above or below you have more extreme effects and volume reduction. The heartbeat sound will no longer be altered by reverb or other audio effects, and audio levels for ambient room tone and Ouija board have been remastered to bring them in line with other sounds, and reduce the volume for the writing sound for Ghost Book 3. UI difficulty, money and prestige level pop-ups to receive new images, improve color accuracy in several UI components, increase the width of scroll bars to shop to make it easier for VR players. Several ID cards have been renamed or shortened, and change the interaction amount, activity level, and custom settings to better reflect what it does. The fixes: player movement will no longer be affected by held equipment. Stamina recovery will correctly now start even if you're still holding the sprint button but not moving. There is no longer a visual glitch when rapidly equipping and unequipping headgear as one of your player models. You can now change your sprint mode while in game in VR, fix several areas while VR teleport. Movement could not teleport, and change sprint mode to hold from toggle on PC, while sprinting in toggle will no longer keep sprinting without pressing the sprint button. Did you catch that? Remove sprinting FOV increase due to a graphical issue. Ghosts. Hanging paintings thrown by ghosts will no longer fall through the floor. The ghost and bone can no longer get stuck in several locations. Yuri can now use the ability to on doors that are open at the start of the game. Demon and Banshee attempting to use their ability but failing will no longer add to the ability's use stat. Ghosts will no longer keep the same object over and over, instead choose more varied items within the interaction range. Hide and Seek Extreme now correctly gives 3 evidence instead of 2, and Ghost event player detection will no longer include dead players if they didn't move after dying. Equipment. Motion sensor 2 and 3 detect sounds can now be heard consistently. The parabolic microphone 2 now displays correct volume levels. You can no longer get readings on parabolic microphone while in the truck. Dots 1 and UV light 2 light will no longer stop emitting when placed in some areas. Changing the sound sensor in the truck now only changes the area affected UI instead of the equipment UI. The parabolic microphone will no longer pick up sounds while in the truck. Did we just say that? EMF reader 1 will now point the needle close to the EMF value instead of including EMF values above and below it. You can no longer take multiple photos of the same EMF interaction by using inventory refresh EMF spot. Headgear 2 will no longer detect the ghost when on flashlights or disabled in custom settings. An active parabolic microphone will no longer muffle your audio when picked up while holding another item. All sound tiers and flashlight tier 2 are now more stable when placed in VR. Now, if you've noticed, a lot of this stuff is facing for VR, and one of the big problems they said for console was how it was relating to PSVR. So maybe this is a step in the right direction when we find out stuff next week. You can no longer light other people's incense by physically moving a fire source to it. VR players can now consistently play a video camera on a tripod that is still attached to the truck wall. Ouija board will no longer break when saying goodbye with 0 sanity. Crucifix 3 will now fully use for all players after it prevents a cursed hunt. Extinguish matches no longer light other objects. You no longer need to swap between each tarot card draw in VR. Grabbing, swapping props or equipment in VR will no longer set the wrong hand position and rotation. Igniters can no longer be used if another player fully used the fuel. Tripod 3 placement. Highlights is now visible when first placed. UI text recognition will no longer get stuck if another player grabs the Ouija board while you're using it. And all motion, sound, sensor, map icons are now accurately sized on all maps. Environment. The player ghost will now correctly be detected when moving between rooms and floors that will evidence gather much more consistently. Sunny Meadows reverb sound effects will no longer turn off when moving around in certain rooms. Maple Lodge fingerprints will be visible again. Remove several locations where the ghost could get outbound in Sunny Meadows. Removed a spot where ghosts could get stuck behind a generator in Camp Woodwind. The camp chair next to Lover's Bench no longer white. All overhead tarps on Maple campsite now have rain sounds. Reduce visible in geometry seams where you can see the skybox in Sunny Meadows. Keys collected will now have the correct name in the journal. Window rain will no longer make things black when viewed from certain angles. All Brownstone High School windows and doors now have correct fingerprint material. You can no longer place equipment in the gap under the cabin. Lights will no longer turn on if you turn them off during a flicker, and added skybox blockers to multiple areas and stop tiny gaps in geometry that show the sky, Tanglewood, Edgefield, Ridgeview, and Willow. Sounds. Impact sounds will no longer play multiple times at once, and UI, skipping the animation when you level up more than once will no longer skip previous levels, unlock pop-ups. Challenge map names will now be correct, and you can no longer complete ghost photo objective while there is no space for photos in the journal. Now, there's still a few known issues, like where's console? I'm just kidding. Diogen path can be inconsistent during hunts on Point Hope. Small items can occasionally fall through walls and floors on Point Hope. Interactions can sometimes repeat multiple times, and MSAA will cause visual artifacts while dead. And there you have it. So this is kind of a major update. We're launching a new map, lots of changes. They gave the slot to igniters, which I think is a really good change. A lot of tweaks, a lot of fixes. Overall, if you're a PC player, it's a great update. And if you're a PC VR player, it's a fantastic update because they fixed a lot of the issues that VR players were complaining about. Now, as I said while we were doing the actual reading of the patch notes, is this a lot of VR updates, and that could be one of the hurdles that needed to be fixed for finally a console release. Now, I know I'm probably sounding a little optimistic, and they did say they were going to address console later this month or early next month. So there's not a whole lot of June left, so I'm assuming if we do hear anything about console, it will be in July. I honestly feel if they don't get it out soon and before version 1 actually fully drops, you're just missing the boat. Like, this is a lot of people who really, if you look at any tweet, like even this one talking about the patch, it's just where's console, when are we hearing about console, is console coming still? Like, people want to know about console, and Phasmophobia's been around for years now, so like, and they've promised that console was coming last August, and here we are almost a year later and no actual hard evidence. So I understand why people are upset about it. Personally though, I think this is a really good update. I'm actually looking forward to playing Point Hope. I might have to sneak a Phasmo stream in next week so that we can try out the new map. I want to know what you're thinking in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching, and later, mates.